We will be introducing several new products throughout 2025. We are still on track to launch a more affordable model in the first half of 2025, and we'll continue to expand our lineup from there.
We should expect that in Q1, margins will be negatively affected by the transition from old Model Y to new Model Y, and there will be several weeks of lost production. So the transition from old Model Y to new Model Y is a big deal. First quarter won't be a great quarter. If you are focused on vehicle deliveries and vehicle margins, then that's not a great quarter. I'm personally not worried about that. And then we're still on track for a more affordable model in the first half of 2025, and there will be new products this year. I think that's a little different from how the slide deck reads. The slide deck reads that Tesla will be introducing new models in the first half of 2025, including more affordable models, plural. So if I'm hearing VibeHop correctly, it's like there may be some new models or a new model introduced in the first half of 2025, and other stuff might come later. But I think to reach the more than 60% growth, the new models have to be introduced fairly quickly because, in the first half of the year in order to have an impact in the second half of the year, because you have to ramp them. So we're going to move on to the saytechnologies.com questions, and then we'll move to investment analyst questions after that.
Is unsupervised FSD still planned to be released in Texas and California this year? What hurdles still exist to make that happen?
I'm confident that we will release unsupervised FSD in California this year as well. In fact, I think we will most likely release unsupervised FSD in many regions of the country, of the US, by the end of this year. Putting a toe in the water, then a few toes, then a foot, then leg, then make sure everything's cool.
Are there any discussions with other auto companies about licensing FSD?
What we're seeing is, at this point, significant interest from a number of major car companies about licensing Tesla full self-driving technology. What we've generally said is the best way to know what to do is take one of our cars apart, and then you can see where the placement of the cameras are, what the thermal needs are of the Tesla AI inference computer. That's better than us, sending some CAD drawings. And then we're only going to entertain situations where the volume would be very high. Otherwise, it's just not worth the complexity. And we will not burden our engineering team with laborious discussions with other engineering teams until we obviously have unsupervised full self-driving working throughout the United States. I think the interest level from other manufacturers to license FSD will be extremely high once it is obvious that unless you have FSD, you're dead.
So important details there. They are talking to other manufacturers. Generally, what they're saying to other manufacturers, go ahead and take apart our cars and see what we do to make self-driving work on a mechanical level. And I think a critical detail here is Elon saying, we're not going to do this unless somebody's committing to do a high volume. And it wasn't asked, he didn't address it, will Tesla license FSD to gas cars or only to EVs? I think the way that FSD works, it benefits from the responsiveness of an electric vehicle, which typically gas cars have lag. And so I don't, it would have to be, my opinion is it would have to be a company that's making a high volume of electric vehicles. And that restricts it to some Chinese companies, maybe Volkswagen, maybe Hyundai. Most legacy car makers are not making enough electric vehicles to fit that standard. And Elon doesn't want to waste engineering resources doing it for a company like, let's say, Lucid Motors that's making 10,000 cars a year, right? But if you're talking, or Rivian, which is making low volumes, if you're talking about Volkswagen, which I think makes about 400,000 EVs a year, BYD makes a ton. BYD is a Tesla partner and they're a Tesla supplier. My prediction is that BYD is the first company to license FSD. I could be wrong. And I don't see I don't think that GM, Ford, or Stellantis is making anywhere near the volume of EVs. And he didn't say it, but Tesla wants to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. I don't think they want to facilitate the increase in usage of gas cars.
Is Optimus now mostly design locked for 2025 production?
Optimus is not design locked. So when I say we're designing the train as it's going to, we're redesigning the train as it's going down the tracks while redesigning the tracks and the train stations. It's rapidly evolving. It's rapidly evolving in a good direction. it's pretty damn amazing, actually. The team's doing a fantastic job. We really have by far the best team of humanoid robotics engineers in the world, and we also have all the other ingredients necessary. Like, because you need a great battery pack, you need great power electronics, you need great charging capability, you need great communications, good Wi-Fi and cellular connectivity, and of course you need real-world AI, and then the ability to scale that production to huge levels. So you have to design for manufacturing. The things what other companies are missing is they're missing the real-world AI, and they're missing the ability to scale manufacturing to millions of units a year. Hollywood shows you the 1% inspiration but forgets about the 99% perspiration of actually figuring out how to make that initial prototype manufacturable and then manufactured at high volume such that the product is reliable, low cost, consistent, doesn't break down all the time. And that is 100 times harder, at least, than the prototype.
So I think the important thing from what was asked about Optimus, first of all, is it design locked? No. They are still working on the design. They are not in pilot production of Optimus yet. They have a new hand. I think they are still working on other parts of the body, and they are figuring out what they need in order to be able to manufacture at some small scale. It's only January. They've said they're hoping to manufacture at a certain scale by the end of the year, that they are hoping to do 10,000 robots by the end of the year. And I don't think they're starting manufacturing, even the pilot manufacturing of Optimus, till the second half of the year. So there's plenty of time for Tesla to continue tweaking the design and getting down exactly what do we want to manufacture. Because when they get to the point where they manufacture the first generation production robot at some scale, that's something that's going to be done in a volume, and they're going to be seeing results. And that's going to feed back to help them make the next one. So you want to get the first one as good as you can so that you can really test it out and then see what changes do we need to make for the next generation. Tesla does have a history of modifying things along the way as well, but I think the idea is they want to get close to a solid design for the first generation. And I don't think we're going to have that until maybe June or July as a wild guess.
When will Tesla start selling Optimus, and what will the price be?
For this year, we expect to just close the loop with Optimus being used internally at Tesla, because we obviously can easily use several thousand humanoid robots at Tesla for like the most boring, annoying tasks in the factory. The robot's totally happy to do the boring, dangerous, repetitive tasks that no humans want to do. So we expect to use Optimus for those tasks at our factories, and that'll help us close the loop for improvement this year. It's really with production version 2, which I think launches sometime next year. I'd like it to be the beginning of next year, but maybe it's more like the middle of next year, with a production line that is designed for on the order of 10,000 units a month versus 1,000 units a month. Like when you design a unit when you design a production line for 1,000 units a month, it takes you a while to actually reach anywhere close to 1,000 units a month. When you design, and for any given production output, it takes you a while to actually reach its potential. But the current line that we're designing is for roughly 1,000 units a month of Optimus robots. The next line would be for 10,000 units a month. The line after that would be for 100,000 units a month. And I think probably with version 2, that is a very rough guess, because there's so much uncertainty here, very rough guess that we start delivering Optimus robots to companies that are outside of Tesla in maybe the second half of next year. But like, so this is such an exponential ramp that it'll go from no one's receiving humanoid robots to these things like coming out like crazy. Demand will not be a problem, even at a high price. And then, as I said, like once we're at a steady state of above 1 million units a year, I think the production, I'm confident at 1 million units a year that the production cost of Optimus will be less than $20,000. If you compare the complexity of Optimus to the complexity of a car, so just the total mass and complexity of Optimus is much less than a car. So I would expect that at similar volumes to, say, the Model Y, which is over 1 million units a year, that you'd see Optimus be, I don't know, half the cost. what the price of Optimus is a different matter. The price of Optimus will be set by the market demand.
So there's a lot there. Number one, first generation line, 1,000 bots a month. Second generation line, sometime in 2026, 10,000 bots a month. 2027, we're talking about 100,000 bots a month. That's over 1 million bots a year. Those are targets. And as he said, we don't necessarily get to the manufacturing capacity right away. It takes time to ramp, but that's very promising. And maybe 2028 that they get to the 100,000 bots a month capacity. I think Elon is sandbagging on cost. The bot weighs 1/20th or 1/30th of what a car weighs. So half the cost would be high. I would expect, not $20,000, but $10,000 or less is going to be the cost of making the bot. And the market price should be shockingly high. I think easily $100,000 a year. $100,000 per bot is the value, because the bot, let's say it does $20 an hour work, 4,000 hours a year, that's $80,000 in value in 1 year, and it probably works for 10 years. And it improves over time because the software gets upgraded. So you're talking about something that will produce $800,000 in value, or $1 million in value. Any employer is going to, any company is going to pay $100,000 for that. So you're looking at ballpark $90,000 a year in gross, $90,000 a unit in gross profit, and you're heading towards 10 million a year manufactured, or 100 million a year manufactured. It gets crazy. It just gets really, when you look out to the future, it gets crazy. And then sales to companies second half of 2026. So that gives you some ballpark of when we spend. So now, like myself, some of my call options are for January 2027. Most of my call options are for January 2027. So if Tesla is actually booking revenue for selling volumes of Optimus robots to companies by Q3 or even Q4 of 2027, if we're seeing that, and it's investors are seeing it, that may be a big boost to my call options. And just as a shareholder in general, if you're looking at the future path and you say, okay, this is what I think Robotaxi is worth long run, this is what Optimus is worth long run, I think we're going to see Tesla stock go up dramatically by the end of 2026, maybe by the end of this year as well. If the Robotaxi network is operating, we should see the stock go up a lot. When Optimus is delivered to customers, we should see the stock go up a lot. From an investor standpoint, I think we're finally crossing that hump to where Tesla stock starts achieving the values. We're getting close to the value we think it really has, although it'll be a long path to get to the real value.
What is the status on mass production of the Tesla Semi, and how will it impact revenue and scale?
We just closed up the Semi factory roof and walls last week in Reno. It's ahead of schedule, which is great with the weather. In Reno, you never know what's going to happen, but we're prepping for mechanical installation of all the equipment in the coming months. The first builds of the high volume Semi design will come late this year in 2025 and begin ramping early in 2026. But as we've said before, the Semi is a TCO no-brainer. It's really similar to Optimus. It's going to be, set by how much people pay, and then it as a total cost of ownership, it's much cheaper than any other transportation you can have.
Just before he finishes, I just want to stress what we're seeing is Optimus will start pilot production, I guess, of the high volume version. They're making a pilot version now, but they're learning from that, and now they know much better what they want to do when they're manufacturing at scale. So the pilot production of or initial production of the high volume version will start in the end of late 2025, and you'll start ramping that in 2026. And he's saying TCO, total cost of ownership of Semi, basically the cost of moving goods, the cost you're a company that moves goods from one place to another, because of the nature of Semi, because it's more reliable, because it uses less energy, electricity costs less than gas. You just go down the list. You don't wear the brakes. You don't have, the windshields don't break. There's a whole bunch of advantages here. Companies that use semis will pay a lot for something that is delivering them a lot of value. It's not like, well, we don't like Elon's behavior, or we don't like the look of the vehicle. It's like, is this saving me money or not? If it's saving a logistics company money, they're going to use it, and there's going to be a really high demand for it.
At that point, when we're at scale, it will meaningfully contribute to Tesla's revenue. Well, I think it's difficult to say how much.
I do think Tesla Semi, again, with autonomy, is going to be incredibly valuable. You know, that we actually have a shortage of truck drivers in America. That's one of the limiting factors on transport. People are human, so they get tired, and sometimes, and I have a lot of respect for truck drivers because it's a tough job. But because it's a tough job, there's not that many people that want to do it, and there's actually fewer. I believe, if my understanding is correct, there are fewer people entering truck driving as a profession than are leaving it.
Yes.
So when you consider, okay, there's more people leaving truck driving as a profession than entering it, well, we're going to have a real logistics problem as time goes by. Autonomy will be very important.
Lars closed by saying, we don't know how much it will, we believe it will add significantly to the company's bottom line, but we don't have an estimate of that. And Elon's talking about there's additional value, not just from having a great truck and having low cost of ownership, but also the fact that it has autonomy somewhere down the road. I think we're probably a few years from autonomy mattering in semi. That can create tremendous value because it's hard to find drivers. So if you can do platooning where one guy drives a truck and there's 3 trucks following him, then you have 4 times as many trucks for one person. You're increasing the productivity of labor of the drivers. You're delivering a lot more goods at lower cost. Huge advantages. Not only is a company willing to pay more for a truck that just uses less electricity and has better maintenance and so on, but if you're adding on, hey, you don't need a driver all the time, it's a tremendous value add for the companies.
It's a several billion a year opportunity, which I don't know in this context, is that these days, does several billion a year matter? I think it does. Not nothing. It's probably, it's probably like a 10 billion a year thing. Yeah, it's $1 billion a month at some point, probably. All this is going to pale in comparison to Optimus. $1 billion a month it's a lot, but it's not. It's going to be like 1% of Optimus or something,
So Elon is saying maybe semi is worth $10 billion a year, but if you look at Tesla as a company, already $100 billion a year in revenue, and if he's predicting that Optimus is going to be a $10 trillion a year business, then semi isn't significant from a Tesla revenue and profit standpoint. The reason why semi is important from Tesla's perspective is mission. That diesel semis are large contributors to the emissions of fossil fuels and the consumption of fossil fuels, and getting semi out there that's able to replace diesel powered semis with something that doesn't pollute, not to mention the other benefits, but reducing pollution, reducing consumption of fossil fuels, shifting us towards sustainable energy. That's probably a bigger reason for semi than profits for Tesla. Not that it will be profitable, but that's not the big driver.
Is it expected that Tesla will need to upgrade Hardware 3 vehicles? And if so, what is the timeline and expected impact to Tesla's CapEx? I'm going to refer to cost there.
I guess we haven't stopped working on Hardware 3 yet. We are still making software releases. We released the 12.6 release recently, which was like a baby V13. But it's a significant improvement compared to what they had previously. And people are still finding ways to distill larger models into smaller models. So we're not giving up on Hardware 3. We're still working on it. Just the releases will trail the Hardware 4 releases.
So we have Ashok saying we haven't given up on Hardware 3, and they're still working on it, and they still think they can make progress. And then Elon jumps in.
The honest answer is that we're going to have to upgrade people's Hardware 3 computer for those that have bought full self-driving, and that is the honest answer, and that's going to be painful and difficult, but we'll get it done. Now I'm kind of glad that not that many people bought the FSD package.
Elon jumps in and says, yeah, I think we're going to have to replace Hardware 3. Now, Elon, I have my own little theory here. First of all, it's entirely possible that's the plan. What we don't know, are you going to replace Hardware 3 cars with Hardware 4 or with the AI 5 hardware that's going into Cybercab? We don't know the answer to that question. We know there's a new inference chip. The current cars that are being produced use Hardware 4 or AI 4. There's a new version of the inference hardware, the hardware that goes in the car, the chip that takes in the photons and makes the control decisions, called the AI 5 version that we believe is going into Cybercab. And so that should be ready in 2026. So if you were going to upgrade the Hardware 3 cars, would it make sense to upgrade them to Hardware 4 or wait for the AI 5 hardware? That's one question that was not answered, was not asked. Then the second question I have is, Ashok says they're still working on it. Elon says, yeah, I think we're going to have to replace it. I have a little theory in my head that Elon said that to motivate Hardware 3 car owners to buy FSD. And if 100,000 Hardware 3 car owners buy FSD at $8,000 a pop, that's $800 million in revenue for Tesla. And then Ashok comes along and says, hey, we fixed it. Hardware 3 cars do self-driving, unsupervised self-driving. We don't need to upgrade you. You still get what you want, right? You get a car that drives itself. But so I'm surprised that Ashok thinks that they will get there and Elon thinks they won't. And I kind of wondered, like, is Elon being pessimistic? And towards the end of this year, Ashok says, nope, we've solved it for Hardware 3 cars. We don't need to upgrade them. And how much will it cost? Some people are saying they should just, give people a discount on a new car. I think that the reality is that they're going to want to upgrade the car. Let's say there's 1 million of those cars out there. Even if you decided to switch your car in and trade your car in, Tesla's still going to upgrade the car and put it out there as a Robotaxi because it's a functioning Robotaxi. Like, why wouldn't you want it in the Robotaxi fleet? If it costs you $10,000 to upgrade the hardware, and then you put the car out there and it makes $50,000 a year in gross profit, you make your money back in a couple of months. It would be dumb not to upgrade the cars at that point. I don't think the cost of upgrading the cars is going to be anywhere near $10,000 a piece, but if it was, it would still be worth it.
Has Tesla given up on ramping their solar roof product?
Yeah, solar roof remains a core part of the residential product portfolio, and it still remains where it draws a lot of customer interest despite it being premium products. We've worked on multiple iterations of engineering to make the product easier to install and distribute by reducing the SKU count. And more recently, rather than direct installation, we are focused on growth through our nationwide network of certified installers. And many of those, they've been installing solar roof with us for many years.
I think it looks really cool. And your house generates electricity, and if you combine it with the Tesla Powerwall battery, then you can be self-sufficient. So even if the grid turns off, for several days, your house still works. And your roof looks awesome. So it's like, I recommend anyone who can afford it, get the Tesla solar roof and the Powerwall. Your family's life might depend on it.
Get enough.
And just in terms of convenience, your kids are not going to yell at you because their computers don't work because the power went out and you can't charge your phone.
True story.
Actually happens.
I personally looked at solar roof. My sense is, yes, it's a premium product. I don't think if you're replacing your roof, it's probably a closer call. But in general, I think solar panels are a smarter option. Like they cost less. If you just have crazy money, then solar roof does look cool and it is efficient. I think the solar panels generate more electricity per surface area or per project than the solar roof tiles. I don't, it's not like a huge business for Tesla. It's not going to be a huge business for Tesla. I think if interest rates come down, then we might see solar installs go up. I don't know if solar roof installs will go up. I think, just on a plain and simple level, the percentage of the population that's wealthy enough to spend, let's say, an extra 20 grand on solar roof versus solar panels, it's just this, not many people want to do that globally, right? In America, yeah, there's a chunk, but globally, does it really make sense? I don't think so.
What technical breakthroughs will define V14 of FSD, given that V13 already covered photon to control?
Well, we've gone a hell of a lot further than photons to output. We've been in sort of the nothing but nets situation, nothing but neural nets from photons to controls for a while now. We're just improving the neural nets. I guess we could get into some of the technical details to some degree. I have to say, I continue to be amazed by just how effective autoregressive transformers are at solving a wide range of problems.
Yeah, so continuing to scale the model size a lot. We scale a bunch in V13, but then there's still room to grow. So we're going to continue to scale the model size. We're going to increase the context length even more. The memory is sort of like limited right now. We want to increase the amount of memory it holds, like to even minutes of context for driving. We're going to add audio to handle emergency vehicles better. Add like data of the tricky corner cases that we get from the entire fleet. Any interventions or any kind of user intervention. We just add that to the data set. So the scaling in basically every axis, like training compute, data set size, model context, and also all the reinforcement learning objectives.
there was a lot there that went really fast, but my sense is just improving the models. There's some AI models, machine learning models that they use, increasing the size of the model, increasing the context length. I think that's the length of video clip that goes into making the decisions, and then exposing it to more data, feeding more data. But it didn't sound like there's any particular technology changes. I think he said increasing memory. I wonder if what the changes will be with the AI5 chip, which is coming on Cybercab and then future vehicles. I think that will also be a game changer down the road. But it looks like we're going to get to unsupervised self-driving on the AI4 chip. I wonder if they're going to stop working on hardware 3 now that Elon has said that, and they're going to stop trying to improve it and devote the resources to improving hardware 4 and just get hardware 4 working and upgrade everyone to hardware 4, or wait for AI5 to upgrade. Like I would say upgrade to AI5 if you can. I don't know whether the power demands are going to matter. We'll see about that.
Coming from Daniel Roska from Bernstein.
Elon, Tesla's share price clearly already includes quite a few of the anticipated benefits you talked about today, yet realizing what you call kind of difficult but achievable will take some time. What are you pushing the Tesla executive team to do differently now to accelerate the innovation in order to realize the value you described for the company?
Yeah, this guy asked a couple questions that were like, who are you and what are you trying to add? Like, how are you pushing the executive team? I thought Elon's answer to this was great. Listen to this.
Working on perfecting real world AI and making rapid progress week over week, if not month, certainly month over month, but often week over week. I spend a lot of time with the Tesla AI team and the Tesla Optimus team. I mean, I go where the problem is, essentially. Like, don't talk to a Tesla executive and like, hey, we don't see you very often. I'm like, that's because your stuff is working awesome. Your stuff is working really great. Unfortunately, I don't see them very often because I go where the problem is.
There's a great video with Mark Andreessen, famous venture capitalist and early entrepreneur in the internet, talking about how Elon works, which is he's got all these companies that he called to a company, like identify what's the biggest problem in this company today. And he goes to, and who's working on that? Let me go work with those people. Let me work with that engineer and sit down with that engineer and let's see if we can figure out how we can fix this problem. And he just does it, one at a time. So Elon is not spending time sitting in an office doing meetings with the executive team. That's what I think this Bernstein guy doesn't understand. It's not Elon sitting in an office with executives saying, all right, let's look at some big numbers here and let's figure out how can we add some big numbers to the bottom line here. It's not how Elon works. Elon is on the ground going to individual employees who are working on this AI project or this engineering project or this manufacturing project and saying, all right, what's the holdup here? Let's get this fixed. Let's make this work better. And that's what makes him such a distinctive leader, is that he really gets his hands right in the dirt.
Well, not really the problem is what's the greatest challenge that lies ahead. So obviously there are many challenges with Optimus. It's a hard problem to solve. Many challenges with vehicle autonomy, but we're making rapid progress in both.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a conviction that the pieces you need, right, are in place.
Yeah.
If we kind of go 12 months down the line and we look back, and you had some of those, but maybe what are the kind of 2 or 3 KPIs that would tell you that you're on track and it's going the right way, and the pieces you've put in place are the right pieces, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for. Or other way around, where would it be off most likely in your mind that you say, hey, I need to go back there and I need to change something to enable the team better?
See, that KPI, that's key performance indicators. He's talking like Elon's some, Harvard MBA or, MBA sitting in an office with his executives, like, let's look at our key performance indicators. And that's not who Elon is as a manager. Elon has, long-term goals. This is what we're trying to achieve. And then what's in the way here? Let's go fix that problem. Let's go fix that problem. Let's get this done. Let's accelerate this. Let's put more resources into this. Elon is not sitting there looking back saying, what did we get wrong? He's always looking forward. I mean, I think he can at times say, we got a little carried away with Cybertruck, but he is a very forward-looking guy, and he's not looking in the rearview mirror trying to figure out what went wrong in the past. It's like, let's go forward and let's get shit done. And I feel like this guy is like total MBA, coming from MBA land, and What are you talking about? Do you know what this company is? Is this your first rodeo?
I mean, I think the predictions that I'm making here are going to be pretty accurate, and it's worth noting, because sometimes people say, "Oh, Elon's always late." Well, actually, no. The problem is that the media reports on when I'm late, but never reports on when I'm early. So sure, I'm optimistic, but I'm not that optimistic. There's many cases in the past where we've been early, such as completion of the Shanghai factory. The factory completion has generally been ahead of schedule, not behind. Like I said, I'm very confident we'll have released unsupervised full self-driving, fully autonomous Teslas in Austin and several other cities in America by the end of this year. That's probably everywhere in America next year, and everywhere in North America at least. In terms of next year, our constraint, I think, is likely to be just regulatory. Like Europe really has, for example, Europe is a layer cake of regulations and bureaucracy, which that really needs to be addressed. Joke like America innovates, Europe regulates.
I'm not going to go through the details here, but Elon's point is, look, we're killing it. FSD will be everywhere in North America by the end of next year, but the hurdles will be regulatory. And he goes into Europe and how, we have to get this approval in May of this year. We might not be able to get the next approval until May of next year in Europe, and Europe is just going to lag. And Europeans are going to lag in their getting access to technology because they have a system that just makes everything wait. And that's not the fault of the Tesla management team. It's just a practical reality, or the Tesla team in general. It's just a reality of the regulatory hurdles in Europe are going to slow things down. It seems like the regulatory hurdles in the United States are not that significant. I think there's states that are going to hold out, like Michigan, which is, deep tied to Ford and General Motors. Some states like New York and Massachusetts are just difficult in general, Illinois maybe, but by and large, the vast majority of US states will have adopted FSD by the end of next year. And maybe Trump will follow Elon's suggestion, and the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration or something will have adopted a national standard for self-driving cars, and that will resolve the concerns about individual states holding things up. Canada will probably approve FSD. I think they've already let it operate to some extent. China will probably approve FSD. He does talk at some point about the hurdles in China, and I'm not going to bore you with that. The challenges of whatever. There's a lot of challenges here, but the idea that this is somehow like a management problem and Elon needs to get the management team doing a better job misses what's going on. Tesla team kills it, and if somebody's not doing their job, Elon gets rid of them. That's the way Tesla works. That's the way Elon's companies work. It doesn't fit the mold of this, measuring by KPIs. He doesn't need that.